nerds, and welcome to The League, exploring the League of Legends lore from A to Z. My name is Rebecca.
And I'm John.
My name is Mark.
And today we're talking about the Heart of the Tempest, Kennen, who was released April 8th, 2010.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so long ago.
Yeah, he's an old boy.
Another one.
Both in release date and in lore.
Of course.
Yeah. I kind of forgot about that, because I think we looked at this back in Akali, and I forgot that he was... Or maybe we just weren't, caught wise to it yet. That, this guy's millennia years old.
Yeah.
We knew he was old, but we didn't know how old.
Yeah, I guess we, know that a little bit about yordles, they don't age, seemingly.
Yeah.
And we also don't know where they come from. I don't think they fuck. I don't know.
It's the Smurfs question, right? It's like,
it is.
Do they lay eggs?
I think they just, appear.
They were
like
birthed
magic.
from the spirit realm through the magic of spirits.
That's
and
true.
Realms.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind
the
of fine
spirit
with
in the
that.
realm fuck.
Yes.
Yeah. Little plane, interdimensional, interplanar, foreplay. There you go.
That exists in some weird, perverted fanfic somewhere.
Some
Oh,
awesome fanfic, you mean?
Yeah. All right, who's kicking off the impression?
Let's let John do it last.
Because he's gonna be the best one.
Yeah.
It just sounds like Fizz.
does.
For obvious reasons.
Yeah. You're not wrong. I don't know. Kennen's got a little bit more of a voice, but it's like, I am lightning. I break the wind.
Oh, that's so funny because the quote that I picked was, I am the wind. So does he break himself? Oh, Kennen, that's so deep. Are you okay, man?
I don't know. It kind of sounds like he's farting.
You're a 12-year-old.
He says I break the wind.
That's fair. That's fair. You're right. And I am a little disappointed I didn't think about it, but...
All right. Yes, they make shurikens this small.
What it was only...
He's so good
His
at
only
that.
joke. Yeah. That's the one that's in the teddy bear I got him.
It is.
Well, okay, so I made a Build-A-Bear for John, but they don't have Kennen Build-A-Bears, so I made a Kennen outfit for the Build-A-Bear. It's really bad.
It's beautiful.
It's so bad.
It's pretty great.
On Twitter.
And then it says... I feel like that does not come across on the mic at all. But you can hear the mall from a the background of a Los Angeles mall back in 2012, probably.
Yeah, that's gonna be worth some money someday. That's gonna be a sound bite of just everyday life. Back
when malls existed.
Little audio time capsule.
Yeah.
Funny, that's where Kennen's lore takes place, is at Los Angeles Mall.
Not many people know that.
Oh, so on his universe page, Kennen has some old artwork, which again, I don't mention much, but the old artwork is always so riveting to me. He has a bio and a short story, the Bow of the Kunai, which is a Kali story about Fae, the really long one that we went over. It was probably the first, massive story that we had when we started this podcast, and I think it was the first one that we were like, oh wow, this is really good.
Yeah, this is like an actual story.
Yeah,
this must be the only one. We didn't know how many full stories there were.
You can count them all in one hand. There's so many.
Kennen has a role in this, but it's not even about Akali. It's about someone in Akali's life mostly. Yeah, but apparently Kennen has other short stories that just aren't on the universe page.
Yes, in fact, written by the same author as The Bow and the Kunai.
What? Wyatt?
Yeah.
Riot.
Joey Yu also wrote Between Light and Shadow, which is specifically a Kennen story.
My God.
It's just kind of not on his page.
Yeah, I don't understand it. It says in the URL, Kennen color story. Come on, this is an easy win. Just link it, man.
So weird.
It's not bad or anything.
No. Do you think there was a time when they only wanted champions to have one short story, and then they kind of dismissed that, and maybe they forgot?
Maybe, but even so,
why would you pick
if you were going to
this
choose
one?
one for him, why choose the one that was an Akali / Fae story and not the one that just Kennen?
They must have been more impressed or excited about that one. I don't know.
They saw the word count and they're like,
It's
oh
the word
man, this is
count,
the one.
exactly.
It's gotta be good. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why they don't have it linked. I can only assume it's just once again, we're just finding bugs and problems with the universe page. We should compile a list at the end of all this and just send it over. Hey, here's 97 things that aren't linked.
They just need someone to take a month to go through the wiki for each champion and connect to them.
I love it. The wiki is like informing them about their own content. Like, oh, did you know that fucking Zed and they're learning about it.
There's a comic.
Which on the one hand, I kind of want to judge, but on the other hand, now having people in the Discord that point things out about our own podcast that I didn't remember, I get it.
That's a fair point.
I get why they're not aware of certain things, because, I mean, especially an older champion, like, when was the last time Kennen's shit was updated, you know? But...
I mean, he did just get a Legends of Runeterra, like, released pretty recently.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
John
was what my quote was
listening.
from.
His quotes.
John was listening to those quotes. It really fucked me up, because it was like someone doing an impression of Kennen, and I didn't care for it. It wasn't that they did a bad impression. I just, like, Kennen is so, like, in my brain, because I have played a bit of Kennen. Like, I know what he sounds like. So it was just wild to get, like, a weird version of it.
Yeah, especially since those quotes, I don't know if this was just my read on it. You can tell me if you got this too, Mark. Those quotes seem way more like he's an anime character. He's going on about like, ooh, this technique is superior.
Yeah, that's definitely something.
You will fall to the lightning technique.
Yeah, I think some of that is from the way that he's got, you know, every champion kind of has like a set of followers that they kind of work with their mechanics, and he's got that, and they're all different students of different, like the Gale style or the Thunder style, right? So I think some of that's like, well, he's got all these styles, we got to reference them. I think it's also like, when you look at those Kennen lines, you know, 2010, there's not a ton there. I think they were trying to say, like, let's give Kennen more of like a character a little bit, and they kind of seem to go with like like you said, anime, almost like very classic, like martial arts, knowing all these martial arts styles, like, yes, your fist strike is superior to my, you know, that type of thing, right? It's an interesting attempt.
Yeah, I was going to say that it's a choice. I could kind of see it based on what we get from his bio and short stories. But I remember one thing that threw us off about the Akali story was how, like, Kennen was kind of like this old wise man, like this lovely old wise man. And we were trying to imagine that dialogue in the Kennen voice, and it was just hilarious. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're trying to go with Kennen.
Oh, well, do you want to take us through the bio?
I sure do. Okay, so Kennen was not a normal yordle in Bandle City. He was not like the other yordles. Kennen didn't really like Bandle City because he's all about that balance. I at no point learned what this meant. Kennen, like, what's wrong with Bandle City? But it's okay. It's such a vague oh my god, what is that word I'm trying to think of? Concept. It's such a weird, like a vague concept that it's never identified. Anyway, so Kennen leaves, stumbles on a new Ionia, which is trying to rebuild itself after many wars. He settled there because Ionians think yordles are special creatures from the spirit realm, so they were probably very nice to him. Kennen spent years studying humans and battling like mysterious bad guys until he decided to instead figure out where all of them are coming from. Lucky for him, they're coming from imbalance, and that's just his thing. So Kennen eventually finds the Kinku. That's how we say that, right? Yeah. Kinku? Mm-hmm. We talked about that a lot in Akali's episode because she's one of the Kinku. They worked with the Eye of Twilight and the Fists of Shadow, but Kennen saw that there was a piece missing and he became the first heart of the Tempest. It's a little vague on what he does, and it was an Akali story as well, but the bio, it kind of says that he passes judgment on how to preserve balance. And he also tried to connect more with the Kinku's people because the leaders like wore masks and kind of seemed to keep a distance between them. These were like the original Eye of the Twilight and Fist of the Shadow. We don't have their names or anything.
We have one of their names.
Oh, do we?
From it was probably his other short story. Yeah, the short story that's not linked.
Oh, of course. So there's a little bit next about how Kennen will just like cut a bitch if he has to, and then we get to that's kind of what it sounds like.
Not wrong.
Like, Kennen may look like a little puppy dog,
shock a bitch,
but he'll fuck you up. Anyway, then we get to the invasion of Noxus, that part of Ionian history. Kennen refused to join the resistance, and the Kinku were kind of like torn apart because they just couldn't decide what to do, is kind of what it sounded like. And basically, we're just taking no action at all. Zed betrays everyone. Shen can't do his fucking job. And Akali decided she was done waiting around and ran off to stop all the bullshit by herself. And I literally wrote good for her after. So the bio ends with him just like sticking by Shen as they, and this is a quote, defend the balance of the first lands. And I don't know what that means.
Balance.
I don't think Kennen knows what it means either, but he's like sticking to his guns. He discovered balance a long time ago, and he's like, that's my thing, everyone. Balance in all things.
You know?
And that's Kennen.
Mm.
I think. Did I do a good job?
You did a great job.
Thanks.
We kind of ran into the same problem with Kennen as we do with pretty much anyone who doesn't die of old age. We ran into it with Ivern. We see it in Heimerdinger and Arcane. Like, if somebody lives long enough, their sense of urgency is not going to be the same as all the regular old humans around them.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that a lot in kind of the passivity of Kennen through a bunch of this.
Yeah, I can't really see it line up because his whole thing is keeping balance in Ionia. And then these trespassers come in, stomping shit, fucking with the spirit realm. You think he'd be like, maybe let's get him out of here. They even had a whole paragraph about being like, oh, Kennen will mess you up. But first, he's got to sit around for 40 years. Like, is that it? I don't understand.
He's got to gather up his fucking energy. Yeah, I agree. I think that it's interesting because, you know, we see it very explicitly called out in the bio that he and the Kinku are like, you know, firmly opposed to getting involved. And then by the time we hit Awaken, which we've been kind of told from writers, is like, that's the future and that's what actually happens. You know, he's involved. So there's obviously something has changed. And I think it's fine for them to take up this one stance, because that's kind of like Ionia's whole kind of conflict, right? Is do we trying to just stay passive and non-violent and then having to deal with the reality of it, right? And I think it'd be really neat to see that change. The problem is that, like, we're just kind of told these things and we don't have a lot to help understand why he and the Kinku don't want to get involved. You know what I mean? We can maybe look to the bow and the kunai, but even then that's more of a specific like circumstance rather than the whole concept of let's stop Noxus, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we take what we learned with Cain, if there was a possibility of like children being there, I can very much understand why they would be like, yeah, we're not sending our fighters out there to kill these kids, you know? But it doesn't sound like that's what was going on.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, I think a lot of this is kind of, they did a lore rework a little bit on, I guess, his personality, I think, than from his original lore. But
oh, I can't wait to hear what his original personality was. A lot of his, like,
it just seems like his quotes and kind of his moveset and kind of personality really hint at this, like, impatient, impetuous type character, which they completely rewrote, and now he's got like the energy still, like he's still backflipping grandpa, but somehow a very patient, slow moving, fast moving backflipping grandpa.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could make that work. That if you got that to work, that could be a really neat contrast. But he doesn't have the work. And yeah, going back and reading his old lore, that was my feeling of like, oh, I like this better. This seems to line up a lot more with Kennen. And if you're gonna take this character and not give them a ton, give them something that's a little more like straightforward and aligned, rather than trying to do this much more nuanced take. It makes me think of like the issue with Yoda in the prequels, where, you know, Yoda as a small little wise thing that doesn't move around very quickly makes perfect sense, and then you try and put him into action and he's spinning around and flip-flopping everywhere, and it's like, oh, something's broken here, you know? So
it's all just a trick. He's slow moving because he wants to trick his enemies.
One thing I found interesting, and we had kind of gone over it before with like the fact that Ionia is kind of, well, not Ionia, but at least the Kinku Order is kind of run by this triumvirate of people. And we only really know of, at least off the top of my head, one other area that's run by a triumvirate. And the two seem to constantly be at odds with each other.
That would be, you know what? That would be a really interesting thing to try and draw like a parallel between, like some story that would cut back and forth between the Triferics and the Kinku Triumvirate and the way they are both the same and different. That could be a fun thing to explore.
Yeah.
Right now it feels a little lazy, but I don't know. Like, it just feels like Riot really likes the idea of having 3 sort of leaders, especially like this is a holdover from old lore too, so yeah.
Yeah, it's true. That is a good idea for a story though, Mark. I like that. Or a comic. That would be really good.
Yeah, that could be real cool.
To see as well. These are just very different approaches to life. One necessarily not being more right than the other, but yeah.
Yeah, they've each got an assassin, they've each got a beefcake, and I feel like Noxus keeps winning these fights because they have a tactician, whereas Ionia's got a speedster.
Yeah, I guess maybe Dex, or strength beats Dex. I don't know how that works exactly. I will
Depends on how you roll.
The Kinku come off kind of like, I don't know, they come off kind of like a mob or something, like a criminal syndicate a little bit here, because they're talking about like, Kennen like not wearing a mask because everyone else in the Kinku wears a mask, and he goes to hand out their edicts, and he tries to put the human or yordle face on the whole organization, like, hey, I know we're a bunch of weirdos with masks who like tell you not to fight Noxus and shit, but it's cool. Look, I'm nice. Like, he's got to go and do PR work almost for the Kinku.
He kind of did,
Hey, I'm one of you. It's cool, guys. But if you fight Noxus, I will kill you.
Exactly, right? And then it directly transitions into like, and sometimes when they challenge the Kinku, like you said, you gotta fucking cut a motherfucker, right? You gotta let the streets know. It makes him come off a little like a mob enforcer. I don't know. Like,
he kind of is. He's like the good cop and the bad cop at the same time.
Yeah. Like, we can assume that they're doing things that are good and for the balance of the 2 realms and all that jazz, and take an optimistic approach to it, but I don't know. It came off a little. I don't
really see that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those ones where, like, a lot of the positive impact is probably through work they do in quelling the spirit realm, but the only impact of that you see is when things go wrong in the spirit realm. When things are going right in the spirit realm, you never see it. So it's got to just look like they're doing nothing all the fucking time, which I'm sure is very frustrating.
Sure. And that would be something to dig into. Like, there's a lot of story. I think I've said it before, but I think Ionia has a ton of stories that could be told with a lot of these ideas that could be really interesting. Right now it feels very vague, right? It's like the shape of an idea, but they haven't gone in and done all the fine detail work,
Yeah, they really like this idea of like a magical world with nature, and we must balance the good and evil. But that's kind of like all they've said about it.
Mm-hmm. I think it's hard too, because that's an idea that, it sounds good on paper, and then when the rubber hits the road of what about all these situations? What about when this happens or that happens? It becomes harder to define, and it just needs a lot of someone needs to sit down for a long time and really figure out all this philosophy and what all this means, and all these different groups and their interests and what they're doing exactly. But
and then they have to put all those things together into a newspaper style writing, and
a tabloid that you read while you're checking out at Price Saver or whatever.
Get a reporter involved.
What would happen if Aurelia fought with
Why is it that they're fighting on the same team? They don't get along.
Man, y'all are being really mean to the summoners. They're just asking questions. Inquiring minds need to know.
They're from the past. It's fine.
Yeah, they're all dead now. Don't worry about it.
They're probably like 13.
Right. They wrote those letters in when they were 3.
I said they were probably 13, like that.
I heard it too. We should go find them all and be like, were you satisfied with your Journal of Justice, Mailbag of Justice answer? And like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Legit, please at us if you ever had your question answered on the Journal of Justice. We would love to interview you and then put it in our own Journal of Justice.
Yep. Where are they now?
Oh, man.
That would be great. That would be a great little project for Riot to do, was little where are they now? All right, anyway.
All right, who wants to take us through The Bow and the Kunai by Joey Yu?
I can hit like the highlights.
The Kennen parts.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's about Akali and Faye and their relationship with Akali's mom. I guess I would say mostly listen to the Akali episode if you want the nitty gritty. For Kennen's part, Kennen is kind of a side character, but we do see, that he was a mentor to Akali. They had a pretty nice little relationship. It seems like, they were pretty affable. Is that what you would say?
Yeah, he's a bit of a mentor.
He's like an uncle. Old Uncle Kennen gonna come and teach you some shit. And I don't know what exactly happens here with Kennen. I don't know. We see him come into conflict with Mame, who is Akali's mom, and the issue is that Shen has just been named Eye of the Twilight, and he's still getting his sea legs under him. So they're trying to figure out what to do. And I think I will say in this little interaction, I got more of an understanding of why he would preach like, hey, pump your brakes a little, because he kind of points out that, right now it's kind of the fog of war is really thick, right? Like there's people on all sides doing things that are fucking with the balance, and we can't really know friend from foe. So if we just act rashly, we might fuck up things even worse, right? We need to really make sure we understand the tactical situation. And Mame is very obviously kind of pushing for just action, right? And that's kind of supposed to be the dichotomy. And then Shen is supposed to come in and kind of help mediate, I guess. See, this isn't a weird thing I will say, is that something in the bio it depicts with Kennen is this idea of like, oh, he kind of comes in and acts as like the middle ground between this very impetuous fist and this much more placid eye. But it seems like in here it's almost kind of the inverse with him and Shen, where Shen is the one who's kind of they look to for the final judgment, and Kennen's the one who's kind of preaching a more conservative approach. Does that kind of line up?
Yeah, it's weird.
Maybe they just wanted Shen to be pushed in a part where he had to make a decision right away.
Yeah.
I don't know. Where he had to be like the decision maker when he wasn't ready to. I don't know.
I think that's it. I certainly think that's because that's what it's trying to show us, is that Shen he's emotionally compromised because his dad just got killed, quote unquote, by Zed. He's been betrayed by his adopted brother, and he's just not in a place to be this completely emotionless, like, here's the best path. And so it's and the problems it's causing for everyone, right? But I think it is kind of weird that it seems to flip what Kennen's supposed to be doing. I think this is the problem with it being so vague, is ultimately that we're not sure what are the job responsibilities, right? Like, I was going to bust out my org chart for the Kinku, like, who owns what department, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I think that's mostly it. Kennen shows up at the end to help them fight off the spirit beast. Some of the descriptions of Kennen's like hyperactive personality are kind of neat. We called it out in the Akali episode, but they're going down a mountain and he's talking with Mame, and he's just running circles around her because he's just got to keep moving. He's just kind of like running around her while they're talking, which is fun.
Yeah, that was really good. They managed to capture the in-game aspect of Kennen and weave it into the new bio that they gave him. The only thing I remember about the story really that is also mentioned in the bio is that he wanted Akali's mother to like name Akali her successor, I guess.
Yeah.
In which she was reluctant. I think she was she thought Faye was more up to the job, kind of thing. So it's just a huge reason why Akali leaves, I think.
Yes. Yeah,
I didn't necessarily catch it the first time around, but Mame has an ironic name given what happened to her protege.
John.
It's not like she did it. It would have been great though if she had come in and was like, looks like you're maimed now, or some old bullshit like that.
Can you imagine if she says that at the end of fights? And then she's embarrassed, but like, oh god, they're dead. No, they can't tell anyone.
Shit, we'll get it together.
Yeah, that's pretty good though. We don't get a lot of Kennen, but we get little bits of him, which is nice.
It's a really good story if you want to learn more about Ionia in general. Akali, you do learn a lot about Akali in that one too, even if she's not, the narrator necessarily, but it is like from the point of view of her almost sister, I would say.
Yeah.
Like they grew up together. Yeah.
Agreed. But not too much else going on with it, I don't think. Yeah, Kennen just kind of hops in and out.
Literally. Now, he is also in Between Light and Shadow, also by Joey Yu.
Still don't understand why this isn't linked on Universe. I just want to mention it again. It's like, it's not linked on Universe. It makes no sense to me. Please link it.
It's interesting because the first line, it's saying that it takes place after Akali leaves, which, like, we have no update on Kennen beyond that. So that's really frustrating that they just hid away his update,
Yeah, this takes place... Yeah, it was after Akali leaves, but my read on it doesn't specify, but my read on it is before Awaken.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if this was one of the reasons that we see Kennen actually join that fight, because we don't see... Shen doesn't show up in the Awaken fight. It's just Akali and Kennen, so it kind of implies that there's...
He met up with
a schism.
Something happening there. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a precursor to that. So essentially, I'll walk you through it. Kennen is on his way to the, was it the Reishe? Is that?
Yeah, Reishe, I don't know.
Yeah, Reishe temple, for a reason we don't know yet, but he's in a hurry. And then interspersed, we get a bit of backstory about when Kennen originally joined the Order, and he meets the first Fish of Shadow.
Fish of Shadow?
Tagasiri is
That's
how I...
Sure, I didn't write it down.
Tagakiri.
We're so good at this.
It was very hard to get pronunciation on that name.
It is. These aren't names you can just like Google to see what they are. Like someone at Riot made them up 12 years ago.
Right. And I only didn't look it up or write it down because I don't think that name's ever going to show up again, ever, anywhere.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
No.
But Kennen basically says, hey, your lives are short, but your stories preserve what you hold most dear. That's why you're better suited for safeguarding the realms than any of the Undying, referring to himself there. Someday all of you will die. I'd like to bear your stories, the story of the Kinku. And
Could you imagine like some little thing coming up to you saying this shit?
Yeah, it is kind of like, it has a very weird energy to the things. Like he says it with like, it seems like the attitude of someone who does not contemplate, I don't know, like
death?
the mortality of the people around him in like an empathetic type of way. It's just kind of like, yeah, you guys are going to die. I'm still going to be here, but it's cool, guys. Like, I'll tell your stories. Like, don't even worry about it. Like,
Y'all are going to die in like fucking 2 seconds compared to my life.
I was going to say, the actual line, I wrote it down, is, someday all of you will die, Kennen added cheerfully. Like, it's kind of funny when you think about it, you know?
It does sound like it's intentional, which I could definitely see. Yordles especially, because they're coming from an area where everyone is also immortal, seemingly. Yep. So I could get them not understanding that maybe facing death is scary and sad. He's just like, sure. Oh, it's just another part. You're going to die.
He's at least like, he admires it. He's like, oh, God bless them. They're going to die in 10 years, but they really wrote a good story, or they're really holding on to what.
Oh, that's so condescending.
Yeah, you know, he doesn't mean to be. He's just incidentally offensive to the mortals.
So then it goes back to the present. He arrives at the temple and sees a group of the Kinku's most loyal acolytes. So essentially when the Kinku decided to stay neutral, they got a ton of pushback from various sects of the order. And this group in particular never questioned their orders. They were always in lockstep with them, always backed him up, always the most loyal. But now the temple is plagued by dark spirits, or at least that's what the acolytes think. When Kennen gets there, he sees that the dark spirits are actually corrupting the acolytes themselves, feeding on all their anger and negative emotion at having to kind of sit back while the country burned. So he tells them that, but they're not happy to hear it, obviously, since they're like, hey, how could we be corrupted? Like, we've been more loyal than anyone else. And so Kennen releases them from the Kinku order because he sees that the demands of the Kinku and the desires in their hearts are conflicting with each other and causing this anger and sadness, which is kind of inviting the spirits in. But they take this as a punishment, and they get super upset at Kennen. They're essentially like, you're banishing us? We did everything for you, and now that we're of no use, you're just casting us off? So a few of them attack him, and he takes a few of them down. But then he remembers that sometimes to tell a story is to lie. So he tells the group
that's parenthood, huh?
That's parenthood. So he tells the group they can leave, and when he tells their story, he'll tell of how they fought super hard against the corruption and did real well, and then left the order on their own with honor intact. And so they kind of understood what he was saying and then accepted and left sadly into the night. And the idea that Kennen had too is that if they left the sect, they wouldn't have these conflicting things anymore. They could just do what they wanted with their life. And then without that invitation to the darkness, it would kind of work itself out.
Get their mental straight, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is definitely like Kennen's color story.
Yes.
This is what you expect when you get to the short story for Champion. It's very weird. Even for Akali, the Bow of the Kunai is not her only short story. They have a color story for her, and then that one as well. I think they just don't remember this exists.
Yeah.
They made an oopsie. They forgot to include it on his page. Someone just, they didn't have their coffee yet that day. They fucked it up.
Oops, all Faye.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're right. They kind of forgot about it. I mean, so what did y'all think about this? I didn't hate it. You know, I think the idea of Kennen kind of being the eyes and ears for the Order and then choosing to lie in certain spots is an interesting one. I guess I wish it gets some more play. And it is kind of interesting seeing people kind of push up against the, you know, what they've been told to do through the Kinku Order. It's hard to feel a lot of not feel sympathy rather for these acolytes, because it does feel like you did kind of use them and then just don't worry, we're putting you on forced leave. You know, go deal with it.
Kennen, he uses and abuses and then lies.
Oh, not my boy. Yeah, it's you get a few aspects that you don't really get elsewhere. I mean, Kennen obviously, like, you definitely see the emotion that Kennen is feeling as he sees the acolytes and immediately knows, like, shit, I'm gonna have to do something really unpleasant here, and like, this sucks because they've been so good to us. Like, he's bummed about it, but
He sounds like he's the new guy who got sent to go fire like some employees.
I mean,
They're like, oh, you want to join the Order? All right, here's the list of names. You got to tell him to beat it.
yeah, that's Kennen. But you also see, like, he does not hesitate to put them down when they attack him either. Even though, and this was interesting because they make a special point of pointing out how this fight is nothing to Kennen. They're basically just flailing animals, and he's just deftly dancing between them, like not even a big deal to him. Yet they still also make a point of saying that he took a few of them down, which seems like he probably didn't have to do that.
I agree. I think it would be one thing if they kind of like, oh, he stunned them, or like, you know, like very comic book, like, oh, I've been knocked unconscious, and then they pick themselves up and leave. But it makes a point of saying, oh, the ones that could, you know, pick themselves up. So there's some that can't because they're dead, zapped on the ground.
Who do you think takes care of like the bodies Kennen leaves behind? Because he's obviously can't do it.
Oh, you know, nature.
He's got a lot of energy. He could like burrow a hole underneath each of them in like 2 seconds, I'm sure. He wouldn't have to move them himself.
He just zip them back down to the coast in about 3 seconds. Yeah, no problem.
I mean, he's got electric power too. He could like maybe jolt them just enough to be like, hey, roll over into their pit.
He brings them back to life, so they move their body for him
No
and then
lazy
kills
fuck.
them again.
Yeah.
He has a really
Kennen
heavy
story that I want.
I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, he's gonna like, you know, shock them back to life, not back to life so they can drag themselves into a death pit.
Yeah, right. Dude, you got a real dark version of Kennen. It's just like if Kennen and Vex had a baby.
You're a hardcore operator. Fuck. I would love to see him do that in a story. He uses electric powers to shock someone back to life, and he's like, "Don't you die on me? That'd be great."
Yeah.
Kennen
MD.
Yes.
I was thinking Baywatch, but that's also good.
You know what? Have him do it everywhere. Every AU should have him at some point shock someone back to life.
Can I just say what a shame it is, thinking about it, that the Kennen MD picture is him looking at an X-ray and not him shocking someone back to life? What the hell?
Yeah, it's a missed opportunity.
You know, maybe he could probably use a nice update. Definitely VO-wise, he could use some nice graphical updates. Maybe they can give him some splash updates. And Riot, if you're listening, please, when you do that, have him be shocking. Who would he be shocking back to life? Who's like the funniest person? Someone who's already Scion, maybe.
Oh,
Scion's a really
Scion.
good escaped patient
That's
Scion or something like that. Oh man, that's just Moon.
Or even just Zillion, because that's ironic.
That's what I was thinking. Was like that, or Karthus, somebody who's already
like, or someone, or someone who's clearly dead.
Yeah.
there's a lot you could do with it. I don't know. I like it.
He does need a visual upgrade though, Kennen. Poor guy.
Yeah.
He went through first round of visual updates, but
yeah, like that's mostly like skill readability stuff, right? I assume.
I think so.
Yeah, and some splash updates and stuff. Because man, if you look at some of his old splash,
oh yeah, his. Boy. I mean, they updated his default splash too.
The ones where he's just in a void, a dark void.
He has 3 splash arts that are the just same splash art. They're just colored different. They're literally the same splash art.
Man, old Riot style. Let me tell you, what's up?
Yeah. Now he does show up technically in one more piece of content called a Bandle Scout Mission Journal.
Oh yeah,
now,
I read
real quick,
this.
Just tell. Do Kennen and Teemo ever meet? Do they know each other?
Yeah, they know each other. They're friends.
I was trying to imagine what Bandle City was like when Kennen decided he needed to get the hell out of there. Like, what was so imbalanced about Bandle City? Was it Teemo's fault? I feel like it was Teemo's fault. Teemo and Lulu were like too much. He's like, I can't with you all.
There's too many Bandle scouts and too few
ninjas.
Yeah, he tried to start like a Tai Chi in the morning club and no one showed up. Just like all sorts of shit.
Lulu came and kept turning people into squirrels.
See, these would be funny stories to tell. I would love to see like Kennen in the early Bandle City days.
Yeah. All right. Anyway.
I mean, this one is essentially just Teemo scouting around different areas of Runeterra, and when he scouts Ionia, Kennen jumps out and they spar. Teemo says he was getting the upper hand against Kennen, so already we're getting a case of unreliable narrator here, so take the rest of the report with a grain of salt. The only thing we really learn in the story that we don't already know, I mean, one is that Kennen and Teemo are friends. And we also learn that Kennen is quick as lightning, so quick, in fact, that he sometimes develops and masters new martial maneuvers in the course of an afternoon. So, you know.
Sure, why not?
But yeah,
right?
I think this was for Wild Rift, I believe. I think they dropped a handful of short stories that were all part of this bigger thing for Wild Rift releases.
Yeah, it seems like they again a continuation of this idea of Kennen as someone who is constantly training and like learning different martial arts styles, right? Does that sound like a continuation of that sort of idea for the character? Like that's the direction they're maybe trying to take him in?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Sure. I mean, why not, right?
All right, give me his old lore. I'm very curious.
Okay. I mean, a lot of it is, at least with like the triumvirate and everything, is basically the same. The main difference is it's said that so Kennen was born in Bandle City, and it's said that in his first living moments he bolted first from the womb, and then second from the midwife who delivered him.
I love the idea of yordle midwives. First of all, delightful.
Yordle doulas.
I was just gonna say yordle
doula. It even sounds like it, yeah.
Now, his parents thought that he would outgrow his boundless energy, but as he matured, his energy found no limits and was matched only by his unnerving speed. Despite his astonishing gifts, he remained unnoticed, or at least uncaught, as he was quite the prankster, until on a dare, he ran straight up the great outer wall of the Placidium. When word of this feat reached Kinku ears, Kennen was quickly and quietly brought for an audience. He found that the role of Heart of the Tempest suited him, frenetically delivering both the word and punishments of the Kinku across the realm. He now works with his fellows Akali and Shen to enforce the balance of Valoran. This hallowed pursuit has unsurprisingly led the triumvirate to the fields of justice.
Hell yeah.
It gets better every time. I love hearing it.
Okay.
So he was, he wasn't some ageless person who was like, hey,
I'm sick of this place.
I'm really old and wise. Y'all need some help. He was kind of like just some really energetic yordle who just ran straight up a wall, and then the Kinku order was like, all right, we can fuck with that.
Yeah.
You run real good.
I will say though, it doesn't make sense that they jump from you ran real good up that wall to like you should be able to pass judgment on all of our people. So here's the thing, and I think this was originally the thing for Kennen too. It's just kind of shifted now with Shen being
in the position he's in, but in this, he was delivering word of the punishment and then delivering the punishment himself. It didn't really like. So I think they chose him because he was fast and could deliver real quick.
He could get there real quick to let someone know they were about to die.
Yeah, he's like the delivery guy in Zelda. He runs real fast, so.
But with a gun, you accept your package and you get shot.
He does fucking
I need you to sign for this assassination.
Oh, that's dark. I guess it makes sense because someone doesn't want to, like, you don't want someone to know what's about to happen to them before the assassin can get there, so.
It's fair.
He travels faster than any word.
That's true.
Interesting. Okay, that makes more sense.
But see, that's the thing, right? Where it's kind of him doing that really runs up against like an Akali type, where it's like it feels like there's a lot of overlap between those two, and like that depiction and how she's depicted now. And so I think they were trying to figure out, all right, well, we want Akali to be kind of this, but what do we do with Kennen? And it's like three jigsaw pieces that don't quite line up, so just kind of like hammering them in or something.
They don't need 3 people, they need 2, but they wanted 3 because there's 3 ninjas. And
and it's funny that in the old lore they leaned more towards he's basically what Akali does now, and in the new lore it's more like, oh no, he's kind of what Shen does now.
And then what does Shen do? Who fucking knows?
He's there too.
Shen just cries about his daddy.
He has fancy neon vision.
He hunts Jin.
Fancy
neon vision.
I don't know. I think that's the thing too, is that even like the mentor idea, if you want to try and make Kennen that's like, well, Shin was also, we've seen depicted as like a mentor to Akali, so it's still he's still stepping on toes wherever he goes. He's too fast, and all these slow motherfuckers, he's just stepping all over their toes. So.
I wonder why they decided they didn't want yordles to have parents anymore, because I'm pretty sure they've made it canon now that yordles aren't birthed. I don't know though.
Sex for the purpose of procreation is just so disgusting. You can't have yordles do it. They're too cute and pure.
They had to know the fan art was coming either way, so.
I don't know. I don't know if it's just. I think I was gonna say maybe it's just an attempt to make yordles more like, ooh, they're more fantastical. They're birthed from raw spirit energy. It's just they're so different. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Does Vex have parents?
It seems
you know what? I don't think she does, and she's probably so mad about that.
I was gonna say,
she's
that
so
should be a
mad
joke.
that she
like,
can't.
I wish I had parents to rebel against.
Yeah, right? That's great.
There's got to be a line in there somewhere.
I know. One of her many hundreds.
Now, Kennen shows up in just 2 issues of the Journal of Justice that I found. The first one was just a question. I was just wondering if Kennen had attended the performance by Sona, and if so, what he thought of the musical prodigy. Now, this was kind of on the tail end of a story about how Sona had performed in Ionia, and in case you're wondering, he says, it was very good. I found myself carried far... Oh, gosh, I should do this in Kennen voice, because he talks real fast through it.
It was very good. I found myself being carried far away to a magical and serene place, which for me is quite different than what I'm normally used to seeing, since I must be ready at all times to unleash the fury of the Tempest upon those who would bring imbalance to the world, harmony, and all things. Oh, I'm sorry, I was talking about Sona's performance. Oh, yes, she was delightful. I found myself drifting off to a sea of bliss and tranquility, which is so uncommon, since being part of the Kinku requires me to be ready at all times should I be called upon.
And at which point he gets cut off by the interviewer.
You gonna pass out? Are you okay?
Oh my god.
He's such a Saturday morning cartoon, dude.
Kennen or me?
Yeah, both. But no, Kennen. I was thinking his voice is very Saturday morning cartoon.
It is.
I like this one a lot more. I kind of wish that this was they would bring this into the current lore, because I feel like it lines up a lot with the character. It's fun, right? To have him just be spewing this stream of consciousness. You know, and maybe like when he's dealing with humans, he's got to like pause and stop himself. It's like, I'm sorry, I get into my own head and I just ramble. You know, something like that.
Yeah.
I liked it. There's like no punctuation in that entire sentence too. That's the other thing.
It is just straight going. And the other time was in issue 12 when Ionia defeats Noxus in the battle for the Isle. The trial for the Isle. I was like, I was like, I swear to God, when I wrote it down, it rhymed, but now it doesn't rhyme anymore. Which word did I get wrong?
I bet you it's Isle. The battle for
the battle for the addle.
The battle for the rattle. Two babies go at it. That was my dad joke for the day.
It was very good.
Thank you.
The only thing of note in here is that Kennen in that fight was controlled by summoner Eclipse.
Oh.
So, there you go.
Neat.
Good job,
Neato.
Eclipse.
You did it.
You did it.
I don't know what you did, but you did it.
You know what I thought was interesting is that they're still doing the classic Olympic rings, where it's like him and a Moo were like two big ones on that team.
God, we used to do that.
Yeah, those were so good.
Yeah.
Now, there are a handful of cinematics he's a part of. First one that we talked a little bit about was Awaken, which, as
So
we
cool.
mentioned, was the second Noxus War of Ionia. And Kennen, Akali, Yasuo, and Karma help out Aurelia in her battle against Sion and the Noxian armies.
Yeah, it was exciting having Kennen pop up. I think he's hard to fit into like serious cinematics, and he does it. He is a little goofy when he shows up, but hype too.
How dare you?
I'm sorry, I was excited. I'm glad he's in it.
It works for me. I like him in it. I think I'd be really excited to see. This is just making me think of Arcane, where you take someone like Heimer. It's like, oh, he'll never work, and he does. And it's like, I really would love to see Kennen kind of given that love and care, because he could be tons of fun to see. You could play around with him so much, I think, and the things he can do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now
He's in Ignite. Kennen is one of the folks fighting Baron right before General Odd One swoops in for the Elise steal.
I love this one because he hits the Baron right in the fucking eye with a shuriken.
Right?
I don't remember that.
It's like no abilities. He just fucking tosses a shuriken at
I love it if it just like all the music cut and Baron's like, fuck. That really hurt.
Who throws a shuriken?
Honestly. Oh, that was our outdated reference for this episode. Some Austin Powers for you if you didn't catch it.
Now, he's also in Rise, kind of.
Oh, honey.
Okay, so...
John, no.
No.
No,
Hear him out.
John.
All right, so right after Ambition defeats Perks, there's a giant lightning shuriken that pierces the sky and then gets pierced by a bunch of bats. And I don't know the significance to this. I know that after this fight, Ambition then goes on to fight Vayne, who, obviously has some kind of bat imagery in her shit. So I actually looked back at the games to see if, RNG had fought anyone who played Kennen, and like maybe Vayne, Uzi as Vayne,
so did Uzi go boss mode?
Wrecked a Kennen or some shit. Could not find anything, but it was clearly a lightning shuriken, and I don't know what the fuck else that... I don't know what the significance is, but it was there. There's no one else in the game that has a lightning shuriken.
It's Batman Kennen. That's what they were teasing.
Yeah, you fucking got me. I'd be curious to see someone who really knows esports history real good. If they are like, oh yeah, this is a reference to that game 3 of blah blah blah, where Uzi went 29-0 against the kid. I don't know, some crazy shit. You
right?
know?
Yeah. Let us know if you happen to know. I mean, now that somebody linked for me after the Kane episode, when I was like, hey, let me know if you can find that thing in the, the Giants music video, and then somebody did. Thank you for that.
It was a hell of a find. God damn.
Yeah. If you know why this Kennen shuriken got pierced by bats, please let me know.
Totally normal sentence. Totally fine.
Now, he's also in Road to the Cup, which is that studio mirror animation where various players did their signature characters, signature moves to climb to the top of a mountain to get the Summoner's Cup. And I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure the person who plays Kennen in this cinematic is Going, who was the top laner for OMG at the time.
Sure. Sure.
Couldn't tell you.
If it's not, I know a select few number of like league people,
Yeah.
Pro players?
Yeah, sure, whatever you want to call them.
No, league people.
League folk.
People. The league folk.
So, so that's all I had for cinematics. Did we have any final thoughts on
Kennen?
Kennen
Yeah.
before
How did it take us so
going
long to get
to...
there? For the short story, there's a bit where he's kind of running across the countryside, and I like the descriptions of Ionia. I thought Kennen was a really good vehicle for, like, you know, going across the land of Ionia and seeing what it's like. I would like to see, who's that guy who writes a lot of color pieces about regions?
Graham McNeil?
Graham McNeil, thank you. I spaced. It seems like, that'd be great for, like, a Graham McNeil story about just Ionia. Could be cool. There's a bit, that ferry that he takes crossing the river. He talks about how it's like it's built from a living, like, ship, and the sails are like these sort of translucent leaf-like membranes. That was all cool. So I'd like to see more of that about Ionia. Not so specific to Kennen, I guess. But
although we would also welcome additional Kennen lore if you wanted to give us any, Graham.
Yeah.
I think we mostly just want that in between where we left Kennen and the Awakened cinematic, what made him decide to join Akali. Because her leaving was kind of a big deal, and she's very much, like, on her own there. So I think Kennen coming back to support her in some way would be a massive moment for both of them.
For sure.
Yeah, I think the combination of Akali leaving combined with what he had to do at that temple to the people who had literally done nothing but be loyal to the Kinku those are probably two big, heavy turning points for him.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I completely agree. What I was going to say was I would like to see him placed in the current world and see where he's at. But that's kind of true of also the Kinku. And I think that's exactly what it would be. It would be about that sort of transitional time and his place there, and maybe leaving it kind of like Akali. One other thing is that in Legends of Frontera, something I noticed is that there's an interaction between him and Zed, where Zed calls him old friend. And I thought it was really interesting, the idea of, you know, him having that sort of mentor relationship with Zed, kind of like he had with Akali, and trying to play around with sort of those two things. Because it makes sense that he would be in that place for Zed. You know, he's been doing this for hundreds of years. You know, he's probably seen a bunch of people and grew up with Zed to a degree, right? I'd like to see them do more with that relationship, I think.
Yeah, and having Kennen find out that Shen's father isn't dead. Like, he's probably worked with him his whole life, too. I don't remember that dude's name.
Yeah, because Kusho,
yeah.
Because he has quotes, too, where he definitely blames Zed for that death, so he definitely still thinks he...
Excellent. Yeah, exactly.
Alrighty. Let's get those AUs.
All right.
I don't even think I have to look up his skins. I actually feel like he's one of the few champs I know them, but I'm going to look them up anyway.
Yeah, and he has a lot of old ones that just don't have lore.
Yeah.
Three colors. So first one is Psyops, the crown jewel of military black ops. The Psyops unit are an elite team of psychic soldiers deployed against rogue militaries and supernatural threats. Officially, they don't exist, but when conventional warfare won't cut it and the stakes are no less than the fate of the world, Psyops answers the call. And this encompasses both the Psyops skins and Arctic Ops. So this one's Arctic Ops Kennen. High Command's public stance towards ninjas are joking to non-existent, as this is a war of modern weapons, not medieval flights of fancy. Privately, they deploy Kennen to hot zones in the deep Arctic, relying on his finely honed ninjutsu and deadly precision.
I forget that the Arctic and the Psyops ones are one and the same. I guess, you know, get them under one umbrella, right?
I like that this is one of those, like, ones where, these people have these psychic magical powers and shit, but we need you to go in there and throw just huck some fucking shurikens, my dude.
That's all you're good for.
That is true. I would almost like to see a story about him in this, just to see how he handles it. I guess he's just so damn fast. It's, you know, doesn't matter, right?
Makes sense. Now he's part of Rift Hospital, set in a world where each champion is part of the medical field. And fun fact about this is the Rift Hospital skins were canon in the pre-retcon.
Is that what they call them, Rift Hospital? I love that name for this line, by the way. Rift Hospital. It's great.
Right. And this one is Kennen MD. Why run with scissors when you can throw scalpels?
Oh, wow. That's it?
That's it.
Oh, my God.
Great.
He's part of Blood Moon. An ancient cult seeking irresistible power surfaces on nights of the Blood Moon to perform profane esoteric rites, merging their flesh with demonic spirits and becoming one with an ever greater darkness. And I like this one because this is a very different Kennen. This one is Blood Moon Kennen. A king-slaying demon, summoned on the night of the Blood Moon, Kennen's purpose is to depose those in power and eliminate every member of their line. He's ruthless in this task, tearing across heavily armed fortress cities in the blink of an eye.
Hell yeah.
Dope. That's cool. I like that.
Heck yeah.
Change it up a little.
This was an exciting skin for Kennen because I think it was his first like good
Non-shitty
modern.
one.
Yeah, I mean like Kennen MD is really fun and everything, but like that's like a fun cutesy skin. This was his first like, yo, Kennen's got a skin.
Yeah, I have a picture of this skin on my wall right in front of me.
You do, yeah.
And I guess it's my icon in Discord, so yeah, I
Oh,
like this skin. Now he's also part of Silver Age and Toy Box. Set in a world, the first one, Silver Age, set in a world where each champion is a superhero or villain. And then the Toy Box one is set in Dino Gnar's Toy Box. It features
Interesting.
champions as toys that come to life. And essentially, this one is Super Kennen, who is a superhero in the Silver Age, and they made a action figure of him, which is in Gnar's Toy Box.
That's cute.
So wait, does he have is Super Kennen a skin? Am I thinking of Super Teemo?
Yeah.
Super Kennen is a skin.
Okay.
It's really cute.
Oh, this one. Gotcha. Got it.
I like it in
Okay.
game
Yeah.
too.
Super Kennen, coming to a store near you, the new Super Kennen action figure. At 6 inches tall, the new Super Kennen is fully articulated, with dazzling lightning bolt action. Add this fitting tribute to New Valoran's bravest hero to your collection today. To New Valoran's bravest hero to your collection today. Yeah, the world they live in Silver Age is New Valoran, by the way.
Got it.
Not to be confused with Old Valoran. And finally, he's part of Infernal, set in a place where the Ashen Lord has been summoned and transformed the world into a land of ashes, cinder, and fire. This one is Infernal Kennen. A playful spirit of fire, Kennen is not a malevolent being, but can't help igniting his surroundings while zipping about. His lightning-quick movements wreak havoc upon any village unfortunate enough to entice the impish spirit to visit.
I kind of like that. That's a little fun.
Yeah, he's playing. He just doesn't know. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's just having a good fun time playtime.
The wiki has all the chromas, and I've never seen the chromas for like Kennen MD. Like, look at this one. He's just got like a rainbow on his hat. It's so weird. I'm sorry. I got distracted. Go on.
Well, those are all the AUs.
Oh yeah, because then he has Deadly Kennen, which is Kennen, but he's red.
He's super
And then Swamp
deadly.
Master Kennen, which is Kennen, but he has a white outfit on and his face is blue.
What,
Yep.
those don't have deep lore happening for them?
I
Yoda
mean,
Kennen.
I
Yeah.
guess technically they do. They're just in other other intellectual properties. We got Yoda Kennen and Deadpool Kennen. So
I didn't realize, was that supposed to be Deadpool?
I don't know
Yeah,
if it's
it took me a
supposed to be,
moment.
but it sure looks like it. So I have some fun facts for y'all. Kennen is voiced by the late Philly Sampler, who also voiced Fizz. We only know Kennen arrived in Runeterra only over a millennia ago, not specifically how old he is. So, technically speaking, he could have been born in the first breath of creation.
Like all yordles were. I like the idea that the world took a deep breath and sneezed out like 40 yordles.
Oh, fuck. I gotta go see the doctor. That's not right. That's not supposed to happen.
Oh, thank God I sneezed out a doctor. I'll go see it. Anyway.
Kennen and Camille have basically the same dance.
Oh.
Breakdancing move.
Okay.
Is it the exact same move? I have to, we should
It
see them
is
side
not
by side.
exactly the same because while Kennen is doing his, he's also like juggling a shuriken, whereas Camille is just doing the dance move.
Oh, fuck. You know what? I've never realized that he is doing a breakdance move. I thought he was just kind of wiggling on the ground. I don't know. I have to see it again. Because, it's kind of an old...
That's
an
half
old,
breakdancing,
you know,
really.
model. Yeah, right. I guess that's fair. But the models are so old. I don't have to look at it. But I always thought he just kind of like
Wiggle,
threw
wiggle.
it up and was like, whatever.
He's throwing his shuriken in the air and everything. It's pretty cool.
Kennen used to have the Law of Inverse Ninja Strength cosmetic Easter egg debuff, This unit is a flippin' ninja.
Right.
Which also made it so that if there were more than one ninja on a team at the same time, they would each have 1 less health for each ninja in the game. And you'd also get this text: ninjas are more effective when they work alone. For every ninja on your team beyond yourself, you lose 1 health.
Cute.
I'd say it probably didn't happen a lot, but that definitely got someone killed at some point.
Probably.
Yeah,
That's why I think a lot of those passives got disabled.
Yeah.
Like the whole, every character with sunglasses takes 1 less damage from Leona type shit.
Yeah.
There was a lot of those back in the day, but yeah, I think...
They can actually change a fight, which you wouldn't expect, but...
Yeah, I like it more when it's just a pure cosmetic thing, kind of like with Ashe has one like that, and they just get a little crown or something. I think... I also wonder, too, if it's like... Because I remember, especially like even with the old buff bar, it would just get inundated with just a million things happening to your champion, and the last thing you need is useless information. It's like our little cute ninja joke.
Now, his original Swamp Master Kennen and Deadly Kennen splash arts, as I mentioned, if you go look at the original ones, literally just recolored version of his base splash art.
This was before they had official chromas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
when
you had to spend full price for those recolors.
Yeah, it's a whole ass skin, just a chroma.
It's like old Rusty Blitzcrank.
I do love Rusty Blitzcrank.
That one's even more subtle, though. Like, at least the
bullshit.
Kennen ones, he's a totally different color. Rusty Blitzcrank, they're like, he's kind of brownish now.
It'll be $5, please.
Deposited into my robot hand. Now I have a story about Swamp Master Kennen.
Oh,
All
okay.
right, hit me with it.
So when we first started at Riot, we got what was called an account unlock, where you get all the skin, you get like all the shit that's currently in the game, plus you get like 100,000 RP and IP, so that you can buy new shit as it comes
I
out.
think you mean essence, okay? It's not IP anymore.
But it was when we got it.
It's fair, it's fair.
So the philosophy after a few years there was that by having all of this stuff unlocked, people at Riot were kind of losing touch with what it meant to be just like a normal player.
Yeah, they didn't like understand what it meant to like lose a little bit of RP or like to have a skin that didn't work the way you expected, things like that. Like when
Right.
you spent real money on it.
And additionally, since a lot of the times you'd get new content auto added to your account when it came out, there would be issues with the store that they would have no idea about because Rioters didn't have to use the store.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, eventually there was a process called Riotization where they would restore your account back to what it was like before you had all the stuff unlocked. And you could keep, I think it was 3 skins
Yes.
that you didn't actually have ahead of time to keep for your account for good. And despite the fact that there were, even at this point, because when we did this was back in the time when like Kitty Cat Katarina was all the rage and you couldn't get it anymore. If you missed it, it was just gone. Same thing with a lot of those other really exclusive skins. Despite this, I was like, no, I want Swamp Master Kennen put back in my account.
I feel like
That's the one I want.
I feel like you were the only fucking person who asked for it.
I would love it if they do that right and they look at all the stats of like, ooh, what skins didn't get taken, right? Maybe we can look at those like, what motherfucker chose Swamp Master Kennen? Fire them immediately. That's great.
Yeah, so that's why I have Swamp Master Kennen now. I didn't buy it. That survived my riotization.
I think I have.
And I have it because I was a temp, so I was never riotized.
Yeah, you kind of slipped through the old fishnet right there.
Yeah.
I think Rusty Blitzcrank, since we were talking about it, is one of those for me because it's just so shitty. I just love it.
It's so dumb. You gotta keep that one.
Oh god, I think I kept another really shitty one for that same I think it was one of the
Probably.
Whistler Village one, or not Whistler Village, but one of the
Ooh, like
one of the really shitty Olympic ones.
Or God, those are all bad.
Oh, Toboggan Corky.
They're all
really
very
bad.
bad.
Toboggan
Yeah. I don't remember which one of the Winter Olympic ones I definitely kept
Maybe
because it
Jax?
was so bad.
Yeah, I don't know. Cassidon's
I'll
also a
go
big
back
blob
and
of
check.
shit. Oh, they're all
It might have been
terrible.
Cassidon, actually. It might have been Festival Cassidon.
Oh, that is a pretty bad one. All right. Any more fun facts?
All right. You can see a pre-rework. Jesus.
Rework.
Pre-rework is real hard to say. You can see a pre-rework minion in Cho'Gath's stomach X-ray in the Kennen MD skin.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
neat.
looking really scared.
And finally, the reason that the Damwon Gaming Kennen skin looks so much like a raccoon is because the Damwon Gaming player it's named for is Nagari, which is Korean for raccoon.
Oh, cute.
And his backing animation is him napping and pulling out a raccoon puppet.
Oh, really? That's cute.
I thought it'd be like him sifting through a garbage can or something.
Hissing at the flare. I think
Can we get
they
an
went with the right
actual
choice.
raccoon cannon?
It'd be so good if like his body moved to like follow your cursor and hissed at your cursor as you were hovering near it.
That would be great. Oh, man. Whenever he picks up the fruit in the river, he tries to wash it in the river. Oh, man. Do it right. Waste my fucking time.
I'll play that cannon skin even if it means it takes me 3 seconds longer to eat a piece of fruit from the river.
Gotta
He gets one bonus damage when playing against grungy Nunu.
Oh, Jesus. Another classic skin.
In case you're unfamiliar with grungy Nunu, it was that Oscar the Grouch skin that he's in a trash can.
Any final Kennen thoughts? Besides more good Kennen skins we could pitch, because we could be here all fucking night.
Yeah. I don't have much.
No.
Yeah.
All right. That was Kennen. We did it. Yay.
Yes.
You can tweet at us if you'd like. It's at Loreheads. And we have a YouTube channel where we post these. And John has a few parody songs up. We also have a Patreon. Thank you so much to all of our patrons.
Yeah,
And a very
thanks, y'all.
special thank you to our Medarda tier patrons, Jeremy Rich, King of Hearts, and Mylect. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for the support. It means the world to us.
You can join us on Discord. Our server is linked in the description of this video and pinned to our Twitter. We have a lot of fun there. Yeah, people play games a lot together. It always like makes me so excited when I see people in like a room together, like talking. I don't know if you guys ever notice that happens sometimes. I'm
Having
like,
human
oh,
interaction.
we made a little nerd community. It's so cute. And be sure to join us next week because oh god, my phone went off. I forget his name. Okay, we're gonna talk about the Void Reaver, Kha'Zix.